All right, Zach. So the Colts, we've addressed a couple, pretty crucial needs early on, but the good news about the Colts is kind of lowly. Best player available is quite fitting, and kind of no matter what you pick, it's not going to hurt him whatsoever. So with that said, you went linebacker in the first round. What do you got for us in round two?
Yeah, I'm going with a cornerback that just fits everything I love about corners, and it burns me a lot, this type of corner, but I'm feeling it with this one. I just like this film a good bit, and that is Florida State cornerback Azareye'h Thomas, the Senior Bowl guy. So, Jake, you got to see
Mhm.
him up there in person. Only allowed 17 catches last season in 354 coverage snaps. That's some Rock Ya-Sin numbers from his famous season a couple years
Don't don't
ago.
don't say that. That's going to turn people off right
It
away.
will. It will. But Azareye'h, he had an interception and 5 pass breakups last year, allowed 0 touchdowns in coverage as well. And when I say just my type of corner, it's the type that's like 6'2", 195 to 200 pounds, who can turn and run, who can get physical at the line. That's just my type of corner. It's the Juju Brents type, but I think Azareye'h
Mhm.
is a bit faster. And the way that I kind of described his game to Jake when we were talking about it pre-show was you kind of get the best of both worlds with Jalen Jones and Juju Brents in a guy like Azareye'h Thomas, where this is a guy where he's going to be able to take away one side of the field like a Jalen Jones does. He's able to be physical and just technically sound. But like a Juju Brents, he's massive. He's massive. He can be physical. He can be, all those things you want out of your big corner. And a friend of the show, Ben Boris at Colts Film Room there on Twitter, did put out a tweet not too long ago that Lou Anarumo likes those 6 foot plus corners that are over 190 pounds. Those are basically been the guys who start for him on the outside, and they also run in like the 4.4s, 4.3s. Obviously, the combine hasn't happened yet, but I expect Thomas to run like in the low 4.4s to high 4.3s,
Mhm.
just based off what I saw in film. We'll see if he hits that, but I think it'll be at least low 4.4s for him. So he's just that big, physical, athletic corner, and he's only 20 years old. He's going to be 21 this first year. Get another young corner in there with Jalen Jones, bring in another outside vet as well, and then you have a really good cornerback room in a room that looked really weak last year on paper. You have a really good cornerback room on paper. So this is kind of like rectifying the Juju Brents miss in a way, because you're taking another corner in round two, but it's just another type I like. I think he just fits this scheme really well.
He absolutely does. Perfect Lou Anarumo cornerback here. And like I said to you before the show, this is definitely the oops, sorry about the Juju Brents thing pick here. He checks so many of the boxes that Juju does. He's big, long, willing tackler, which the Colts need that from the cornerback group so much. He's physical, which will go great with the boost and man coverage. Uh, Something I always like in my cornerbacks is for them to be aggressive when the ball is in the air. Some cornerbacks, I mean, it's their position, but they're so passive when the ball gets to them. Not him. He wants to get the ball, at least wants to break it up. And I really liked what I saw from him down in Mobile. Was very competitive, had some really good reps, I think, against Tez Johnson from Oregon. Tez Johnson, the very small Tank Dell type corner. So that guy is going to be one of the most blazing receivers in this draft. And he had some really good battles with him down there at the Senior Bowl. So I really liked what I saw from him. If you throw a ball against him along the sideline, it's not going to be complete.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of those guys that is going to use his body to box guys out. So I'm a really big fan of him. Like you mentioned, there's the track record. Guys threw against him in college, and it did not go well.
Yeah, I also think
So
the
yeah.
playmaking too is underrated with him. He just never
Mhm.
got targeted in college.
Right.
Which, I mean, look, Florida State was awful last season, so you
Yeah.
could just throw it at everybody else. Yes, look, in a season where they were one of the worst teams in college football, Florida State, he only allowed 17 catches and no
Right.
and no receiving touchdowns. Clearly, he was not the problem with that defense last season.
Correct. Yeah, and that's on the heels of, he played on a defense that had Jared Verse and Braden Fisk last year. So, I mean, if he was going to come out last year, he probably would have had a lot more fanfare because that was kind of a loaded group.
Yeah.
But no, that guy's really good. Moving along to my next pick. So we all know tight end has got to happen at some point. And for that, another guy I really, really liked down at the Senior Bowl was LSU tight end Mason Taylor, the son of Hall of Famer Jason Taylor, the nephew of linebacker Hall of Famer Zach Thomas. So this dude has got NFL bloodlines through and through. His whole family is NFL Hall of Famers, basically. So I really like what I see from him. He is like 6'5", 250. So he's got the size you're looking for in a tight end. Moves really, really well. Has a good route tree. Is fluid in and out of his breaks. Does not drop the ball at all either. And I was reading up on him more before the show. And Brian Kelly, who is the biggest hater, no matter if he is your coach or not, really, Taylor endeared himself to Brian Kelly as a true freshman. He was getting on the field in late game situations as a true freshman. Very smart player, has that football IQ, that we all fell in love with that with Josh Downs as a rookie. And it's something that made him able to contribute right away. Mason Taylor's got the same exact thing. So this is a guy who he's already a pretty good blocker on, out move and get on the move and in the passing game. He's not necessarily got the chops quite yet for you to just park him on the line and be an inline blocker, but that's not really a huge part of the NFL game right now anyways. Your star tight end is not someone who you're just going to sit there as the sixth lineman all day. So he can get the job done for what he would be asked to do as a blocker in the NFL right now. But he's already a very, very good pass catcher as a tight end at a position that can take so long for guys to acclimate, and some of them never do. I think Taylor could contribute right away. We've seen Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta. We've seen these guys be able to hit the ground running. And, I mean, Taylor's going to be a second or third round pick, but I think he'll be able to contribute pretty immediately.
Yeah, and, everyone's kind of looking for that bona fide number one tight end for the Colts in this draft. Like a guy who can not only be a pass catcher, but can also block, have that full package at tight end for the Colts. And I think outside of Warren and Loveland, I do think he's kind of the best fit in this draft class to be that all-around tight end. Like there's a tight end I took in the third round of my mock draft, which I think people like him more than your guy here, than Taylor. But for me personally, I'd have Taylor over him, and I think Taylor has better potential to be a number one guy. So I like Taylor in round 2. Again, it's maybe not the sexiest pick, but that's certainly a guy where I see what you're going for. I see the full body of work, and I see the full game that he can have. And I think from day one, he can just step in and be your number one tight end. Maybe not be like a Brock Bowers, but he can be a consistent guy in both the run and the pass game, which the Colts just certainly didn't have last year.
Yeah, absolutely. He's someone who, with the Colts, it's very up in the air what they're going to do in free agency. If they strike out on what they want to do in free agency at tight end, again, Taylor is not. He's not Will Mallory, who can only run routes and catch the ball. That's how Mallory's kind of never really cracked the lineup consistently. He's not just strictly a blocker like your Mo Alley Cox type, who you hope occasionally can get you a conversion. This is someone who has utility and can be a 3-down player pretty quickly. And we all know that Shane Steichen really could use that in his offense. And that's maybe why we've never seen Shane's offenses reach their potential so far to this point. But if you get him a tight end who doesn't have to be taken off the field in this situation or that one, like maybe this thing can work and look like a functional, consistent unit.
Yeah, for sure. Now coming up, guys, we're